Welcome in, everybody. 6 playoff games are in the books and 7 remain, including the big tilt for Joey's 49ers against Green Bay on Saturday night. Let's get right into it. This is the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. I'm Erik Stenholm. He's Joey Moore. Let's dive right into it. We had 6 games last week. We got 4 coming up this week. Let's start, of course, with the Niners. Shockingly, they get the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers. That game was wild. It was basically over from the get-go. You texted me after the coin toss, like, wow, the energy is firmly in Green Bay's favor, and it never let up. As a Niners fan, watching that Green Bay game, what do you think about next week? And first of all, what did you think about Green Bay's performance against Dallas?
Yeah, first off, I mean, from top to bottom, just what complete muscle flex by like the Green Bay Packers as an organization. This was supposed to be like a reset year, and they're turning it into, I mean, boy, if you're buying like stock in certain teams, you might want to buy the Packers right now with how young they are, how fast they are, how cheap some of their players are. Matt LaFleur had a humongous day. Yeah, I mean, from the get-go, like I've said, I'm usually pretty big on kicking the ball, but Matt LaFleur said, nope, I've been thinking about this all week. I've been scheming it up, and we're going to get the ball. We're going to go on an 8-minute touchdown drive, and, like, the building's going to get real tight real quick, and it did. And
you called that last week, too, and you're like, look at Dak stewing on the sideline.
Like, he just stay at the camera. He just sit there, like, he hadn't even got the ball yet, and you're just like, oh my. And we could point the finger at him and Mike McCarthy all day, and deservedly so. I mean, Mike McCarthy seems, like we always said with like our A's with Bob Melvin, he just looks nervous. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if he's a good manager or coach, X's and whatever. Like, every time the camera's on him in a big game, he looks nervous. And he just right off the hop. I mean, Dak and CD were just not only not on the same page. Like, I mean, do you like each other? I mean, it was like one bad pass, and CD's like, it's like he knew, like, you better not throw another one because, like, I've seen this movie before. And Dak's like, what do you mean? I'm not gonna throw another one. And it's like it just snowballed. And of course he did. He threw one to Jair Alexander. Great play. I mean, you could borderline flag. I mean, sure, but he was never open. So like. That's
their best player on offense, CeeDee Lamb. He was taken out of the game from the get-go. Like, he got some garbage time stuff, but I mean, completely shut down. And not only that, like, friction on the sideline within 10 minutes of game action, and both broadcasters, it was Burkhart and Olsen, immediately pointed out from the jump, hey, something's going on here with the Cowboys sideline, and it obviously never let up.
It just happened so quick. I mean, Dallas Cowboys have had some Hall of Fame receivers, and I had the best receiving season of any Dallas Cowboy player ever. I mean, Dak, I mean, I have been a critic of him, but I mean, after the season, it's hard to say he was not really, really good. But like, this is where they cut the checks, and like, it was a colossal failure. I mean, an F-. Offensively, and then defensively might have been an F- plus minus. I mean, they easy forget 50. They could have hung 60 on him. I mean,
Green Bay called off the dogs midway through the third.
And it was like, even when Dallas got like, okay, they had a touchdown, then they got the kick, a field goal after half, and then it was like, can the defense get a stop? And it's like, not only did they not get a stop, it's like 5 plays, 75 yards and touched. Like, it's not even, you're not even holding them up. And I mean, boy. Did Micah Parsons play? I mean,
they made the point that he got held quite a lot, but I'm like, I mean, they called it twice. How many more times do you want him to call it? Like, he was taken out of the game. So as a Niner,
2 holding calls on you in a game is kind of a lot.
It is a lot, man. But the point Cowboys fans were trying to make was that there were more. But even so, I mean, it was just an ass kicking from the snap of the first ball. It was unbelievable. And as a Niner fan watching that game, now as you go into next week, You're playing against a team that's extremely hot, that has a quarterback that just came off a perfect passer rating. He's throwing the ball downfield with confidence. What is the Niner game plan going into that game where, by the way, they're 9.5-point favorites with all that rest? Do you employ more of a run and gun type offense? Do you try to just run the ball down their throat from the beginning so that Love doesn't get the ball as often? Were you scared by Green Bay when compared to some of the other teams you could have faced? What are your thoughts heading into that game?
I mean, I think like if you would have told me that the Final Four in the NFC was going to be the Niners with Jared Goff and the Lions, Jordan Love and the Packers, and Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, I'd be like, if we don't make the Super Bowl, I'm walking into traffic. Like,
it really has broken so nicely.
I mean, at 2 home games, like I'm just trying to like prepare myself so if it doesn't happen, like you just don't go nuclear. But yeah, I mean, I was more afraid of the Rams, like for sure. I mean,
Right.
I thought they were going to roll Detroit. And then I kind of got a feeling before the game, like you see the building and they bring out, Barry Sanders there, Calvin Johnson, like Eminem's doing the intro. I'm like, you know what? I think this might be Detroit's night. I mean, there's just like happening. And they got off to a damn good start. I mean, I think 3 touchdown drive. There's 21, like 10 or something.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, 21-17. But then they only got 3 the rest of the game. But yeah, I mean, sure, heck yeah. I mean, the way the Packers played, I mean, I kind of, it's good in the sense of like, well, the Niners ain't gonna take them lightly. I mean, like, what makes you think they can't do that to you? I mean, this is when I kind of get nervous in the sense of like with the bye, right? So they had the bye. The Rams game meant nothing. The game before that was a 10 a.m. game in Washington. Kind of slept through the first half. And then had a great second half and won, and then the Eagles lost, so they clinched the 1 seed. Kind of weird, but the week before that, they get the doors blown off by the Ravens. And the week before that, they took care of business, but they played Arizona. Like, they haven't played a big game, like, in a while.
And Green Bay's played 3 must-win games.
They've been in the playoffs for a month.
Right.
And
started with the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, which they housed us. Then they played in that big game against Justin Fields, and the defense was actually great. And then in this game, I mean, going up against a vaunted, quote-unquote, Dallas defense, I think they finished 3rd in total defense, 2nd in scoring defense, and they hung 48. I mean, you have to be a little nervous about the offense. I still think the Niners are going to put up a ton of points.
The number, first and foremost, yeah, I mean, the Niners' game plan against any team, I think, is pretty much the same. The run with Kyle sets up the pass. I mean, for as good of a play caller and offensive genius as he is, he really struggles to design plays in a scheme when it's just drop back. That's why we just never win when we're down. We have to win a certain way. So running the ball is key, but number one, offense or defense, we have to stop the run. And that's kind of been our little bit of Achilles heel, although it sure sounds like Erik Armstead will be back and healthy, which is huge. But I mean, that's what makes the Shanahan offense run. Matt LaFleur, it's just crazy. It looks like the same plays.
Yeah.
The Niners run the same. They do the motion. Here comes the zone back the other way. They cut it back, and Aaron Jones is getting 5, 6, 7 yards to carry. Stopping him is first and foremost, and then just don't give up the big play. I don't think Jordan Love consistently can go 75 yards, like 9, 10, 11 plays. What the Niners can't do is have Christian Watson or Jaden Reed just run by them. They are older a bit in the secondary with Gibson. I know Charvarius Ward had a good year, but they sometimes just get beat deep, and that just can't. The one stat I did see what Dallas struggled with yesterday is average, like I saw today, yards per attempt against the blitz. Purdy was number 1 in the league with like 7.8 yards per attempt against the blitz. Jordan Love was 2nd in the league with like 7.2 or something. And yeah, you'd see Dallas would bring the heat and just bloop.
It reminded me a lot of CJ Stroud against Indy in week 18, where it was just like, yes, there's 4 guys in the backfield about to hit him. He doesn't care. He still throws it deep. He doesn't check down in those situations. So impressive from Love. One side note before we move to the other 3 games coming up this weekend. If I'm Seattle and I have the opportunity, quote unquote, to hire Dan Quinn, who gets routinely schooled by the Shanahan offense, the McVay offense, the LaFleur offense. Why in the world would I hire that guy? Like, he's going to go to a division where 4 games a year, he's just going to be behind the 8 ball with that antiquated defense. It does not work against good teams. Seahawks should not hire Dan.
What's crazy is the Niners kind of run that scheme a little bit. But I do think they do have better players than most teams on defense. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. What I forgot is LaFleur was on that staff too.
Yeah.
In Atlanta. I mean, I knew Kyle was, obviously, because everyone seems to blame him, which I've never heard an offensive coordinator get blamed more for a Super Bowl loss than him, which, I mean, yeah, could he have done better? Hell yeah, probably he would say so too. Like, Dan, you're the boss, Dan.
Yeah.
And conversely, for some reason, everyone wants to fire Mike McCarthy. And people still, I've seen today, want to, like, Dan Quinn, what the hell was that? But, like, what the hell was that? Like, I mean,
Dallas did still put up 32 points. Granted, most of it in garbage time, but you give up 48 at home, with
48 and the starters left with 10, 11 minutes left.
With a healthy roster too. There's not like there was any massive injury that was dogging that team. So Mike McCarthy firing watch, Dan Quinn firing watch. Niners 9.5 point favorites.
Maybe Dan Quinn doesn't get fired. They just hope he gets hired.
Hired by somebody else. Saturday's first game, because that was the night game, so that the Niners on Fox for the late game. Saturday's early game, Houston at Baltimore. Baltimore also favored by 9.5. That game's going to be on ESPN with the Joe Buck, Troy Aikman crew. Stroud, my note here is that he's entering the conversation for greatest rookie season ever. I think Baltimore wins comfortably here, but that's 2 straight weeks where you've looked at Stroud and said, hey, this guy isn't a great rookie. He is an all-time great rookie, and he's not a very good quarterback or a great quarterback. He has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback in this league sooner rather than later. Like, what a game against Cleveland. My
question would be, what's your argument for the reason why he wouldn't be already?
I mean, go through the list.
I'm going to say this, and I truly believe this. Lamar's had a hell of a year. He's going to be the second best quarterback on the field.
Okay, so that's a hot take. So you say, Stroud is, obviously he's a better passer than Lamar, but last time I checked,
that's what you need to do at the position.
This game, by the way, is going to be 4 degrees, so there's going to be a lot of running the ball in this one, but
which helps out, Ravens. But again, same thing with Dallas. Other than Dak, there's probably no guy with more pressure on him than Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is a similar type situation to the Cowboy game where you have a young quarterback, who's playing with house money coming in against the guy who has to get the W.
Yeah, who already won. And again, when was the last time the Ravens played a big game?
2019, and they got.
Well, no, just this year. Was it the Niner game? They dominated, but still, I know next week they played Miami, but it's hard to say that was a big game. Miami is in the tank, and they won by 50. I don't know. It is. It's going to be, yeah. It is Houston, warm weather, dome team. I don't know.
We'll see if Stroud can play in the cold, because we haven't seen that yet this season. That's, I guess, one small thing he hasn't accomplished yet in his, rookie season is playing in the cold and winning a game. That would be unbelievable if he went into Baltimore as a rookie and joined Joe Flacco as the 2 quarterbacks ever to win 2 playoff games as a rookie. That would be insane, considering he's going to win Rookie of the Year. He's, I think, had 4 or 5 games that no rookie quarterback has had since maybe Andrew Luck, maybe Cam Newton, where you look at the stat line and you're like, huh? How in the world did he have a perfect passer rating against the Cleveland defense that was number 1 in scoring and number 1 in total defense? It's absolutely nuts. So good on you, CJ Stroud. I lean Baltimore there, 1, because of the weather, 2, because it's a dome team going to the East Coast, and 3, Baltimore has gotten healthy because they've had basically 3 weeks.
Kind of sucks that this is the ESPN one, which I know ESPN kind of gets last pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I like Buck and Aikman. They're
I think they're the best, too.
And then they're going to get Texans, Ravens, which probably the worst. No, maybe Tampa, Detroit might be the worst.
But Houston, any game that features Houston is going to get that early time slot on Saturday.
They should be called the Houston Saturday 1:30s.
If Houston wins this game, then next weekend's AFC Championship, they're going to move it to Saturday at 1:30, I'm sure. Sunday's first game, it's going to be noon Pacific time, 3 Eastern. We got Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit -6. That line just came out. So this is the NBC game with Tirico and Collinsworth. Detroit has all the momentum, jacked up crowd. A head coach has changed their franchise forever. Their first win in 30 years in the playoffs. Biggest game for Detroit, some may say, since like the late 1950s, which is insane. They're playing a Tampa team that we just watched blow the doors off of Philly. I lean heavily towards Detroit -6 here with that extra day of rest. Motivated team, going to score a lot of points against that Bucs defense. I just worry that maybe this could be a little bit of a shootout.
Did you see the video post-game Dan Campbell in the locker room?
Yeah, with
like giving the game ball.
Giving the game ball to
the GM Brad Holmes, who has done a hell of a job.
Yeah.
With I mean, top 3 or 4 roster in the league, in my opinion. And and then he's just like, it's like, you're good enough for fucking Detroit, Jared Goff. And he's like, then Jared's like, I fucking love everyone in this room. Just tell you, whoever wants to play here next week, like, we're good. And it's just like, oh my, like
vibes are.
I'm like, I'm not even a Lions fan. I'm like, I could run through a wall and it's 7 a.m. I'm like, this is.
Well, like we always say, we're a body language podcast. We're a vibes podcast. And we use that when we describe teams like the Eagles that are shitting themselves. We also go the other way. This Detroit team, immaculate vibes.
Yeah, Detroit, Houston, could be Packers right now too. I mean, no one's higher than them right now. But yeah, I mean, as for the game, I don't see Detroit losing this game. I mean, the only way is if they just somehow are not able to handle the success, which I have no reason to think they wouldn't, because the way they play with their run game, their offensive line, Tampa does stop the run pretty well, really well, actually. And if Baker just doesn't throw the ball to the other team, which he wanted to today, he tried a couple times. I think Detroit's secondary is gettable for Tampa. I could be wrong, but I think they played earlier this year in Tampa, and it was kind of a close-ish game. I could be wrong, but
Detroit did pull the game out.
Detroit, I just don't see Detroit losing this at home. The building's going to be rocking again.
Yeah. I really like Detroit in this spot. I think Goff is playing the best football he's played since he almost won an MVP back in 2018. Like, this is a really good one. I'm glad this is the NBC crew. This can be a really good game. They did a great job, I thought, last week of doing the Detroit Los Angeles game. I mean, their coverage of the other games was fine. I mean, I think Jason Garrett is terrible as a color commentator.
Well, he's terrible, but they we got to throw you in there because we hired Drew Brees and he was
so bad. They're like, hey, this guy might be actually a little bit better. But I thought their coverage on Sunday of that game was awesome with, the local angle with Stafford and all that. They just did a great job of showing how electric that building was.
Did you? I mean, I was watching. It was right before Kayla went to work, so I was watching the Open. They, Eminem does his Detroit versus everybody. No one believes in Detroit. And then as soon as they play the NBC music, and then Mike Tirico tries as hard as he possibly can to put in every Eminem song he could possibly do, his puns. I was just like, this.
Detroit's winning this game. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And they open the broadcast and it's just black behind them with no lights on and all the players running out onto the field. And even Collinsworth, who, I mean, he saves his for the game. He was already saying that before the game started. He's like, yes, crowd. Oh my God. I was like, this is going to be.
David said too, just the power of football. Detroit, they've had some Tigers teams, which did they win recently?
They haven't won since '84. No.
And then
they went.
They've had the Red Wings, and then the Pistons had their little couple runs in the early 2000s. But they're when your football team is good, like
Nothing
this is
like
like
it.
this might be like the biggest day in Detroit sports history, like the wild card game. Which put it into perspective, you get like the Dallas Cowboys who are like, oh my god, like do you not like take it for not only just take it for granted, you just like this is just I'm gonna throw up today. You wake up and you're like, I want to puke as a fan, or like maybe even a player. But like Detroit, you're like, oh, it's be the greatest day of my life. Like even if we lose, we had a playoff game at home.
Yeah, and that's why we're picking Detroit next week. I mean, it just means so much more. Yes, Tampa, that'd be career defining for Mayfield and Bowles if they were to get to the championship game. But for Detroit, I mean, this is a chance to go as far as they've gone in a season in 70 years. So it's pretty unbelievable. One more game to look at. This is the perennial KC Buffalo matchup, but for the first time ever, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to play a road playoff game in the NFL. I don't believe it. Buffalo favored by 2.5 at home. This is the Sunday late game. So it's going to be 6:30 local there in Buffalo, aka cold as shit. I looked at the forecast just now. Looks like 10 degrees with a ton of wind, probably no snow, which that'd be an improvement from this last week, but it is going to be bone-chillingly cold. And from what I saw from Buffalo today, the whole Josh Allen running with reckless abandon thing, yes, long-term it's not great because he's going to get hurt and it's going to affect them because their salary cap is so tied to him. But in these cold weather playoff games, is there a better weapon in the league than a 6'5", 260-pound bowling ball that can run like that? I love Buffalo in this game.
I love Josh Allen. I don't really love Buffalo in this game. I'm not expecting them to but it's just I don't know. Like I know they played Miami and that was just an easy, like perfect matchup for the Chiefs at home. Like there was no freaking way Tua was going in there and like even competing with Mahomes, but the Chiefs were impressive and like to be the best, you got to beat I don't know. Someone's going to have to knock the Chiefs out. Like, I think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to Sean McDermott and Josh Allen better show up.
This is a legacy game for both of those guys.
You cannot a lot like Lamar. And you could say, granted, I would be devastated if the Niners lost, especially Saturday, but I don't think it would just be a gigantic wasted opportunity. They have yet to completely shit themselves. There wouldn't be.
The only time they did it was because all of their quarterbacks got hurt.
And you could say they blew the Super Bowl, but it's hard. I mean, Dallas would kill to blow a Super Bowl right now.
There hasn't been a devastating Niners playoff loss since 2011, I would say.
Josh Allen has to win this game.
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't, if not this year, when? The Chiefs arguably will never be this gettable.
Right. I mean, this is their chance. This is their home game. I think, much like the Detroit game, this is going to be an elite fan performance here. Buffalo, the Bills Mafia, they know.
Did you see today when they threw the corner route in the end zone? The
snowballs. They're just pelting Deontay Johnson.
Tony, they're like, that's not cool. And I'm like, it's not cool, but they showed up at 5 a.m. or whatever with shovels. They're ready to go. They're doing anything. If they could run on the field and tackle Najee Harris, they would.
And anytime they saw Steelers fans trying to get to a seat, they didn't shovel those. It's so freaking funny. This is a legacy game for everyone involved, including Bills Mafia. They finally get Mahomes on the road. I feel like every single Chiefs Bills matchup, including the regular season, has been an arrowhead for this entire era. And
it makes me think of when the
there's another era. Ding.
Oh God. It feels like the Niners Packers, the year they remember Rodgers, we need to get one of these at home. And then they did and lost.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that. I mean, no one has said, we need to get them. But the fans have we finally get to see one in Buffalo, as if they earned it. Play better than the
First of all, they didn't get there last year because they got absolutely walloped by Joe Burrow in the second round.
Yeah, I'm just I hate when people say it's about time we get one in Buffalo. I'm like, why? they have to beat the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs, we don't just hand out these Arrowhead invitationals. Like the Chiefs do earn it every year. And yeah, I mean, Buffalo damn near missed the playoffs, and now we're like expecting them to beat the Chiefs, which I know they haven't been great. But I was just thinking, you look at the contrast of the conferences, look who's left in the AFC. It's like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and CJ Stroud, who
could be 4 of the 6 best in the NFL.
I mean, I thought about it, like the only guy I'd even you would have to put Burrow in there if he's healthy.
Yeah. But
like, who would you take out? I would take out Lamar.
Yeah, I would say so too. I'd probably go Mahomes 1 and then
Justin Herbert, I wouldn't put him in.
No.
But like he's got the number. I mean,
Herbert is behind Lamar.
Then you look at the NFC. It's got Purdy, which I freaking love Brock Purdy. The numbers, but like he doesn't look like those 4. And then you get Jared Goff, Jordan Love, and Baker Mayfield. Like, but essentially you have like the quarterbacks, and then in the NFC you have like the minds behind the. Yeah. Well, you have Kyle, you have Ben Johnson, you have Matt LaFleur, and I guess Dave Canales had a good night tonight. I mean, he might get a job. And the fighting Bakers,
which no one in the world thought they'd be here. So I like this, that we're differing on at least one here. I like Buffalo, you like KC in that matchup, not necessarily because you think Kansas City is some world beater given the way they are right now. It's because you're like, Buffalo is in that position that Dallas was last week. Butts are going to get tight if they're down early. It's a legacy game for everybody involved. That's going to be probably the game of the weekend. I think without a doubt, that would be the one that's going to get the highest ratings for sure. Let's go to your Jack in the Bum of the week. We've had a lot of, repeat candidates this year. Trevor Lawrence comes to mind, Belichick. A lot of guys who've turned in performances, much like Jacoby Myers last year with that crazy play where he did the backward lateral, where you just shake your head and go, God, what a bonehead. This week, I mean, you have 3 of the greatest candidates of all time in McCarthy, Quinn, and Prescott, and just laying a massive egg. You have Tua Tagovailoa, who, I mean, I get it. He's a Samoan. He's from Hawaii. He grew up in Hawaii.
Hawaiian Tim Tebow.
It's -10 with a -30 wind chill. Probably not a great environment for him to succeed. And then Flacco with the back-to-back pick sixes having, I mean, I can't put him on the list just because he's 39. Nobody expected anything.
He deserved to be dominated, but he didn't deserve to win.
Yeah. I mean, there's only one direction you can go here, and it's so obvious.
Yeah. I mean, make no mistake about it. The Dallas Cowboys franchise is the Jack and Bums of the week. Jack and the Bummers of the week. I mean, it's all-time just colossal failure. They will have, ramifications for, I think, at least those guys. Like I text you, I would be shocked if Belichick and McDaniels weren't there like next week.
I saw someone on Twitter say over/under on the Belichick introductory press conference in Dallas set at Friday at noon Eastern.
Like, I feel like that's the one guy Jerry could hire to where, like, now I think Belichick, you might want to, like, I'd maybe go more of like a Ben Johnson, like in it, like up and coming ahead of the curve guy. But like to Jerry, especially being like an old guy, Belichick's the one guy he could hire where he could go to his players and be like, I sure as shit didn't hire the wrong coach. Like you want me to fire Bill, but like like the one thing I can say about Belichick is like when he's had a decent team, like they're not like just no shows. I mean,
no Belichick defense would give up 48 to Jordan
Belichick
Love.
with McDaniels. They got Mac Jones in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They
you look at the Patriots this season, yes, they were terrible because they had 2 of the worst quarterbacks in the league playing for them. But other than that game against New Orleans, where I think they lost like 31-0 or something, the defense showed up to play every game towards the end of the year. So like he would shore up the Dallas defense almost immediately. What Dan Quinn did in that game, giving up 48 points to the 7 seed to a team that needed 2 last-minute wins to get to the playoffs. I mean, that's one of the all-time defensive coordinator performances of all time.
Like when you apply for college and then you get in and then your second semester senior year, you just fail everything and then maybe like get arrested for a crime. That's like Dan Quinn. Like he was about to get one of these jobs, and then they all just rescinded the offer.
Yeah. He got canceled, but for his performance on the field. I mean, he was going to, in all likelihood, he was going to be Seattle's coach because Carroll is involved.
I'm
in
not
the
convinced he didn't already have the job before it came out Pete quit, or they moved him to the upstairs.
Yeah. I would, if I was choosing this week, he would have been my bum of the week. Yes, McCarthy's going to be the fall guy. He's going to get fired. Dak is in the last year of his deal next year, and there's going to be endless talk on all the sports talk shows about, oh my God, there's no way you can extend him. Just make him play out this deal. Maybe even look into trading him. Everybody's so mad at his playoff performances. He's 2-5 now, and he was completely listless, deer in the headlights in that game. Most of this goes on Quinn, in my opinion.
That's a really good argument for like, how would you divvy it up? I just,
and Jerry's got to be in there too.
I mean, but like maybe, but like, yeah. I just think if he's the owner and GM, like, I mean, they have good players, really good players.
Mm-hmm. They go 12-5 every year.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was thinking because like you can't, I don't know, like Dak has 1 year left. I think his cap hit's like $59.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll talk about it later, but like, yeah, I just like you really think about these quarterbacks is like, are you really worth that? Like if you just draft a quarterback like every year and you pay him nothing. But like if they cut him, what is this dead cap like 70, 80 million or something?
There's no way you can cut him. If you trade him, you're probably not going to be competitive.
You don't think like maybe like the Titans or maybe like Atlanta would trade like a sixth for Prescott?
It depends on who gets hired as the coach, but yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking,
like,
do you think Seattle
it just came out that
trade?
Belichick interviewed with Atlanta, and apparently Arthur Blank is all in. Like he will offer Belichick $20+ million a year. He wants him to be his coach. My point was, like, if they made a move like that, say they traded for Dak or signed Cousins or got one of these guys who's, a top 12, top 15 quarterback, because right now they have nothing on their roster. Is that enough to entice Belichick to come in? I don't think so. If they draft a quarterback with the 8th pick or 9th pick, whatever they have, is that enough to entice Belichick? I don't think so. I don't think that job is one that anybody really wants. What I've heard and what you've brought up before is like maybe, Vrabel and Arthur Smith team up and, go somewhere and try to instill a culture there.
I'm just trying to think because like I think the only thing, if I was Dallas, I would do anything I possibly could to get rid of Dak Prescott. I really would. But I'm just thinking, like, if he was a free agent right now, who would even want him?
Atlanta, Washington.
But would they, or like, should they want him? Is like,
not do you want to have $55 million a year?
Do you want to have him? It's like it's the same thing about Danny Dimes got $40 million, and you're like, we really couldn't just draft a guy and pay him nothing.
Yeah, the more I think about it, it's like, and we'll talk about this later, the way contracts are right now, where you would see, and we'll see this with Cousins, like what do you get on the open market as a back end of the top 10 quarterback in the NFL? Like what do you get? And so last year we saw guys who weren't even back end of the top 10, who were back end of the top 20, getting 3 years, $130 million contracts. So, I mean, this is going to be really wild to watch in the offseason. But your point is, if you were in charge in Dallas, you'd blow the whole thing up.
I would nuke it. Absolutely nuke it.
And that's not what they're going to do. There's some reports that McCarthy's going to stay. There's some reports that Belichick is a candidate for the job. I mean, wow.
I would storm the beaches of Normandy if I was a Cowboy fan, and they just run it back. I really just like
everyone's coming back.
Okay, cool. Me too. I'm coming to the stadium and like you're gonna see me on the news. That's what's gonna happen. Like
we saw this with Jason Garrett for damn near a decade, where every year they would go 8-8 or 7-9.
I'm not a Cowboy fan, so I don't know off the top of my head, but this felt way different. This was like again, I just knew Dallas because they remind me so much of my Sharks. I knew when the Sharks blew the 3-0 series lead, like, oh, this was different. Like, let's nuke this thing.
That didn't feel good.
I was just like, I've been hurt before, but this felt
This
like
is special.
I'm like, this is different kind of hurt.
So that has to be it. We knew it from the second the game started. The 2023 Dallas Cowboys, Joey's Jack in the Bum of the Week for the wild card round. Let's go into my You Like That picks of the week. So as I mentioned before, we went 47, 39-4 in the regular season, 5-2-1 on our futures. We did eke out a 3-2 in our first week of playoff picks. We got there with the Rams pick, which you loved. We got there with Buffalo -9.5 and Tampa Bay +3. We lost on Dallas. What a horrible bet. And Miami +4. So two of the bets that I liked were the ones that got absolutely crushed. So I need your input here. I got to decide if I'm going to do 5 full picks this week, given that there's only 4 games, or if I'm going to pare it down a little. So I am going all favorites. I like Baltimore to win and cover at 9.5. I like SF to win and cover at 9.5. I like Detroit to win and cover at -6. I like Buffalo to win by more than a field goal. And then the Tampa Bay Detroit game just opened at 48.5 is the total there. And I think there's going to be so many points scored in that game because Detroit's one Achilles heel. They can't really defend, especially the pass, the way that they need to be a championship team. So I think that game's going to be high scoring. But as you look at the 4 favorites in those games, which one are you most shaky about given what their line is? Because, obviously, I think you lean more Kansas City than Buffalo. But when you look at Baltimore, your Niners, Detroit, any of those give you pause when you look at the line?
It's just hard because, am I going to pound the table for the Niners are going to win by double digits? I'm like, the whole week I'm preparing myself to get, to lose by 30.
It's tough because I really do think Detroit's going to come out hair on fire.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Detroit. I just think they're so much better than Tampa.
The Golfin roster talent.
Tampa beating Philly, even as drastic as it was. Philly, there's no wheels on the car. Right. They all fell off. I would pick the Chiefs to win. So I guess Buffalo would scare me. See, the thing about Baltimore is, do I think they could lose because the pressure and, just CJ Stroud's on top of the world? I love the heck out of D'Amico, but I also could see them winning, 45-17.
The Golfin roster talent there is enormous between Baltimore and Houston.
The difference is if the Texans go 3 now and Lamar and them run it down their throat and go up 7-0, the whole building will exhale. Okay, it's looking like how it's supposed to look. But if after the first quarter it's 10-7 Texans, you're like, uh-oh. I don't know. Very much like Buffalo. If they don't knock you out, it's ugh. Yeah, but I can't say that the Texans are gonna cover, let alone win.
I just looked at the updated lines, and that KC Buffalo game has moved to 3. So we are going to take KC +3 there. If you're more confident in that than you are in Buffalo, we got to go that direction. These can't all be my picks. Obviously, I'm picking Baltimore because the Golfin class. San Francisco, same thing. They're rested, they're healthy, they're better than Green Bay. The only way that doesn't go our way is Jordan Love.
Just eventually this roster of the Niners is going to get old quick.
Yeah.
And
but not this week.
How many I just say, even as a fan, how many of these, if you take out the COVID year where everyone got hurt, they've been in the NFC Championship game 3 of the last 4 years. Once you're that's hard to do unless you're the Chiefs. So I do. I think there's so much urgency with this team. This,
you only got 2 more years after this with Purdy costing a buck and a nickel. So you absolutely have to have this one. Like we said with Detroit, this is a generational game. Detroit fans have not seen something like this in damn near 70 years. They're going to come out with their hair on fire. I do think Tampa Bay showed today that Baker can sling it, and they're going to put up some points. So I do like the over in that game. And then
if Tampa stops the run, it'll be a game.
And I think they will. I mean, I watched Vita Vea just wreck that game today. He pushed Jason Kelce
pushing
back.
Jason Kelce into returement.
Yeah, it was a hell of a performance from a guy who had largely been written off after a few injuries. So good for him. Let's just go with it. Here's your you like that picks of the week for the divisional round. We like Baltimore -9.5, SF -9.5, Detroit -6, the Tampa Bay Detroit over at 48.5. And then Kansas City +3 in the final game of the weekend. Joey, it's time for your feels great, baby. Your wildest take you feel best about currently. And oh my God, I can't believe what I'm looking at here as a Vikings fan. This is disgusting.
It is disgusting. But like I said, if we're buying stock, might want to get your Jordan Love 2024 MVP tickets in, because those people who were laughed at for putting in some Brock Purdy MVP tickets were damn close to hitting on that,
and hopefully hedged.
And like, I mean, if the Packers have a good year, win the division, and he continues to, he's still making not much money, and they get maybe even some more weapons on offense, which I don't even, they might not even need. Maybe get better on defense. I mean, shoot, they could win 11, 12, 13 games, and all of a sudden Jordan Love looks like your
a guy who
MVP.
Through week 8 was 3-5, and a lot of people were talking about benching or cutting after the season.
Well, his own team was talking about benching him. Like, I think I'm going to say he's like in his last 10 games.
His last 9 games, 21 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Yeah. That's what I was going to.
Yeah. What else needs to be said? That's quite good.
I don't care who you're playing. I don't care.
That's good against William and Mary and the School for the Deaf.
Niners better look out, because they are a young, hungry team playing with nothing to lose.
And it's the arm talent for you, right? You see some of these throws and you go, oh boy. It's like CJ Stroud. It's like
the touchdown pass, his last one that he threw to Dobbs, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Where he kind of rolls right and he hits him with the Stafford, like Mahomes, like kind of 3/4 sidearm, and I'm just like,
I thought the
number
TD
one, that's arm talent is A+, and number 2, to be that confident to do this he was probably up like 25-30 at the time, but still.
The throw to Wicks for the touchdown, I think that was his second touchdown, where he's got 2 giant defenders in his face and sort of no look, just slings it across his body to the left, hits him on a post. I mean, it was just, I saw that and I was like, I don't feel as bad about getting absolutely torched by him on Sunday Night Football week 17, because that's exactly what he did in that game too. He's a gunslinger. He learned from Rodgers, who learned from Favre. They think they can make every throw, and over the last 9 weeks, Love has made almost every throw.
I heard today, it was Coward's show I was watching. He said he throws it better than Aaron. I'm not going to go that far yet, because I think Rodgers might be the prettiest throw of the ball I've ever seen. But it ain't that far off. Especially he's like
it's a flick of the wrist.
And boom, it's a rocket, and it's effortless. And I think post game he was on Scott Van Pelt's show, and I was like, I gotta be honest, I think this is the first time I think I've ever heard Jordan Love talk. I'm like, but the other thing too is they mentioned his age, he's growing with the team. That was the thing with Rodgers. Rodgers felt like if he was everyone's babysitter, and
right.
It just was.
And he played favorites with throwing it to Devontae.
Well, that, and then on top, he's got to bring Randall Cobb everywhere. That guy is not an NFL receiver right now, at this point in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And then he goes to the Jets and he brings Lazard and came out to Garrett Wilson, switched his number to number 5. 17's available. Here comes Devontae, and I'm like, so we're just going to be the 2017 to 2021 Packers that won absolutely nothing. But we're going to do it with the Jets.
When you, by the way, before the season called that the Packers would have more wins than the Jets, in no scenario did you envision them playing at the Niners in round 2 of the playoffs and being this good.
I mean, think about this. You would have told me before the season that the Niners would be in the divisional round. I'd be like, all right, cool. Like, expect it. Like, this team should be there at least.
Mm-hmm.
They're also going to be there with the Detroit Lions, who haven't seen this round since, like, they let blacks play in the NFL. And the Packers would be there, who, like, yeah, but before the season, we thought Jordan Love was ass.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield and the Bucks, who, I mean, everyone was, like, convinced Caleb Williams was going to be a Buck, and they were just
their over-under was 5.5, in some places 5, and they're in the divisional round. It's unbelievable. Them in Houston, insane.
Like there's no Dallas, which the Niners weren't afraid of them anyway.
There's no Eagles.
There's no Eagles.
There's no 13-4 Vikings.
I would have said there's no Rams, but I was only afraid of them like as they started, like before the season. I'd be like, well, I thought the Rams were pathetic.
You had them going 4-13, yeah.
And all of a sudden, why didn't see like Ash Ketchum Pikachu was gonna. He set the record for all like they were in the regular season, and then last night he sets it in the postseason. Like,
yeah, rookie record for receiving yards in a playoff game.
Like,
182.
he goes over the middle, he breaks tackle. Like, I'm just this is not fair.
He took enormous hits in that game, and I think this is part of the reason he broke all those rookie records. That he has a very realistic shot of winning Rookie of the Year, despite Stroud being so unbelievable. Is like he's one of those guys who he's trying to make his name in the NFL. He goes over the middle and will take any hit.
He's one of those guys like try hard that like he hasn't been told he's made it yet.
Right.
And
he hasn't gotten that second deal, and he's just out there just giving 170%.
He's like Rudy, but in the NFL. I mean, Kyron Williams. I was thinking about it this way, go a whole other tangent. Like, you look at the Niners, because it was Niners and the Rams battling for McCaffrey last year, and the Niners like gave that extra pick, whatever. And the Rams were like, we gave him all for like, Stafford and
Von Miller,
yeah. Like, we have no, like, we can't do it. Well, the Niners got McCaffrey, who, like, I mean, I'm not going to go out on a limb here and say they think it's very worth it, especially if we're not giving up a 1. But still, they gave up a 2, 3, a 4, and a 5, and like are paying him a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams don't have Christian McCaffrey, but they spent a 5th rounder on Kyron Williams, and I think they're pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Like, where was he? And like, Rams, their defense isn't great, but playing a lot better than I thought. I mean, I can't believe it.
You just can't believe that the final 4 is Love, Mayfield, Goff, and Brock Purdy. Like, it's insane. I think before the season, everybody would have said Eagles for sure, Niners probably, maybe, the Vikings, maybe the Lions. The Saints were kind of the trendy pick in the South. And I mean, now look, there's a realistic chance Baker Mayfield is playing to go to the Super Bowl. It's insane. But your point with your take this week was Jordan Love has gotten to a level that literally nobody thought he could get to before the season. And now, obviously, he's going to get paid. Next year's his 5th-year option year. He's going to get paid big time. And you're saying he's worth every penny. He could be an MVP candidate next year.
Like when has Trevor Lawrence shown you any of this?
Not
or
once.
Like Tua. Like any.
I mean, Tua has had some epic performances, but they've been at home against a bad team, 4 touchdowns. Like, this is on the road against the Cowboys in the playoffs. Perfect passer rating. Like, good on you, Jordan Love. I fucking hate the Packers. I hate that it's been 32 years of solid Hall of Fame level quarterback play for them nonstop. It was Favre 92.
Some Hall of Famers, like, you're like, oh, like wow, Hall of Fame really is like the Hall of Really Good because of how did you make it? Like, yeah, we have jumped the shark completely on Jordan. I'm not going to say he's there yet. Obviously, he's not. But like Brett Favre is like one of those Hall of Famers that like sits at a different table. Like, Brady's got his own table.
Yeah.
And then you got those other QBs, like Montana, Peyton, Favre, all those guys. And then you got like your Steve Youngs, and then like you got
Joe
Like,
Namath.
yeah, like whoever else. And it's like they have Favre, they have Rodgers up there, and like Jordan Love going to be at that same table.
If Love plays like 12 more years for the Packers at an elite level, that's going to be like 40 something years straight of Packers elite quarterback play. And the Vikings have had what, 3 or 4 seasons in there? We had a Culpepper year. We had one Favre year. We had that crazy Case Keenum year. I mean, it's just devastating. It's like, please, God, just let us at some point here. Yes, I love Kirk Cousins, but we've never had that. We've never had a guy who just.
Hey, and like the Niners haven't either.
It's true. I just saw Brock Purdy's the first Niners Pro Bowl quarterback since Jeff Garcia. I was like, that can't be right. Smith had to have made it. Kaepernick had to have made it. Jimmy G had to have made it. Nope. None of them made a Pro Bowl. And now
like
Purdy's
legit
better than
Pro
all
Bowl,
of them.
not like Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl.
Unbelievable. All right, let's close the pod. We're talking about quarterbacks right now. We're going to talk about them again. I think there needs to be some sort of change to the system. I talked about this with my buddy Ryan when I was golfing today. Something needs to be changed with the system of how you pay quarterbacks, how you pay the most valuable players in the NFL. So the cap is somewhere in the high 200 millions, and it's only going to go up. But because of that, quarterback salaries are going way up and way up. So if you look at every season since 03, we're talking 03 to 22, that's 20 seasons. Every one of those Super Bowl champions has had either their starting quarterback on a rookie deal or their starting quarterback is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So you look at all of those lists, and even the ones where you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't. Flacco was on the final year of his rookie deal. Carson Wentz in 2017 for the Eagles, he was on his rookie deal. Yes, he got hurt, but Foles was the backup and came in. Like, you cannot physically win without it. Russell Wilson, 2013, all of these examples, rookie deal or first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback or both. So I just think it's kind of bullshit that any team that doesn't have a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback basically has no chance to compete after, like, say, the third year of that quarterback's career if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, like, every team that's stuck in purgatory here, you can just list them off over and over and over again. Tua and Dak and Kirk and all these guys that they are good enough to be, 12-win, even 13-win teams. But when you get to the playoffs, you have zero hope. Like, the NFL is supposed to be the league of ultimate parity. Yes, maybe the NHL is even more parity, but like the NFL is the most compelling product in sports because of parity. How do we improve this? Like, you can't have a guy like Tua making 50-something million and his team is just going to be perpetually 9-8 because he is not good enough to warrant that. But then on the other hand, you can't, like a guy like CJ Stroud, say in year 4 or whatever, he all of a sudden gets a contract that by that point, God knows, it'll be 5 years, 350 million, some insane thing, and it'll completely hamstring the franchise unless he's a freaking Peyton Manning level quarterback. Like, I just think there needs to be some sort of a reset here, because the way I look at it now, it's like, unless you have Mahomes, unless you have Burrow, unless you have maybe not even Josh Allen, can you compete? Like, once Purdy starts getting paid, the Niners aren't going to be able to compete. I'm sorry. Like, do we need to change the league fundamentally for this, or is this just the way the cookie crumbles?
Well, when you texted me about it, I was just saying, like, I don't think there should be any like rule change. Like, I just think teams have to just be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just, do you think it's easier to build what the Chiefs have built? Meaning, they found Patrick Mahomes. Like, they found arguably one of the greatest. I mean, I would argue if he retired tomorrow, he's a top 4 quarterback ever.
Yeah.
With his resume.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think what the Niners have done, which is like equally impressive? I mean, they haven't won, but like equally, but like literally took the last guy in the draft and have put the Space Jam Monstars around him.
Yeah.
Do you think that's easier?
I think, well, the thing is like, you have maybe a 1 in 25 chance of getting, a quarterback that is good enough to be a Hall of Famer.
Do you think it's easier to find Patrick Mahomes or Brock Purdy? Like, meaning now, like with their money. Like,
is it easier to find a quarterback making $1 million a year?
Purdy is great.
Right.
I mean, I'm not gonna say his career, but like late round, like
the current Brock Purdy is the same as the 01 through 04 Tom Brady, right? He's getting paid nothing. He's surrounded by the Monstars. He's got an elite head coach who's just the mother of all schemers. Like, it's the same situation that Brady was in early in his career. Or you can have the Peyton Manning route where he basically gets to call all the plays, kind of like Mahomes does. It's his system, and he gets to go out and just ball out all the time. Only difference is Mahomes has had much more success early in his career than Peyton Manning had. But it's like, do we want to have a league where it's closer to the NBA, where you have to have one of 5 guys on your team, or you have no hope of winning a title? Or do we want it to be more on the NHL side, where let's say there's like some sort of a cap on contracts that makes it so that a team that doesn't have a superstar but has a pretty good quarterback.
The NHL does have a rule. So, like, what is the salary cap? Let me get my calculator out. So is it calculated like 230? I think
it's 252. I believe in
really?
the NFL. I think it's gone up over the past few years.
I'm gonna Google it. NFL cap. 242?
242, okay.
Is that right?
Yeah. So if it's 242 and a quarterback is making, 55 million. They've said
so here it is. So the NHL has a rule that no one player in the league or on your team can make more than 20% of the cap.
Okay.
So if you do 20% of 242, that's 48 million. How many quarterbacks are making more than 48 million or their cap hit? Let's go. Right. Dak Prescott, damn near 60 million. Like in the NHL. Yeah. So if you want to do something like that, I mean, I guess maybe you could do something like that.
The only people that get hurt by that are Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Hurts, Herbert, whoever.
Like, what can you not buy with 45 million? You can't, like, what do you need extra 50? I don't know. Like, maybe you do.
So
I don't want to tell people like to take pay cuts. Like, I don't want people to tell me to take a pay cut, but like Brady, I mean, it's a huge reason why they won.
I was just going to say that he was a one of one in that, yes, he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yes, he's the greatest of all time, but he foregoed what? 150, 200 million of extra earnings over the course of his career to take smaller deals so that he could win. He was so hell bent on winning that he was
Mahomes,
I don't need that
extended to make him the highest paid guy, right? Like if Mahomes did like a 4 or 5 year deal, he got like his 300 million, right? And the cap keeps going up, and then all of a sudden Dak's making 60, and then maybe like CJ Stroud makes 70 million. Like, it's gonna happen. Jaylen Brown for the Boston Celtics makes 70 million a year. Why? Who even watches that? Like, so like these guys are gonna make more. Like, if you're like Mahomes or somebody and you say, give me 40, 45 million a year, I'll play for poverty for 40, 45 million a year. while some other average team pays some above average quarterback 80 million a year and can't function, can't field a team.
Looking at you, Deshaun Watson.
But that's my point. Why don't they do what like Deshaun got the guaranteed everything, right? And he has been just even beyond just like the off the field crap of like why like owners don't want to do that. He's terrible on the field and he's a nightmare off it. Like, it's easy. I think it's easy for the owners to be like, well, we're not giving you fully guaranteed. Well, like, it's gonna take another Danny Dimes, another, like, I think Kyler's talented, but like, is he worth that? I don't know. Jalen Hurts, like,
that contract looks awful.
Like, already,
and you go on down the list, Carr, Geno Smith, all these.
It's going to take that. Like, which one's it going to be where the owner says, like, you know what, Trevor or Tua or whoever? No, I'm not. And like, that's it.
5th-year option. Maybe we'll re-sign you at the end of the 5 years for a cheaper deal. Someone needs to come in and say that, because it's tanking franchises, as we've seen with Dallas. Like, you cannot win.
The number one thing that kills teams is paying above average quarterbacks elite money. They always say, like, oh, it's his turn. Like, he'll pass him up. Like, oh, he's the next one up. The cap goes up. And if I'm an owner or GM, I'm like, why am I paying you more than Patrick Mahomes? On what planet?
Is Trevor Lawrence even in the same stratosphere as Patrick Mahomes? Like, he should not make
just because the cap goes up does not mean your salary goes up. Like, the cap goes up. You know whose contract might go up? Well, if I'm Miami Dolphins, I might give Tyreek $35 million instead of 30.
Mm-hmm.
I might give Mostert want to raise maybe
Waddle and
Tua. No, you don't get it.
Yeah.
No, same thing with Jacksonville. Okay, maybe I don't know what their contract is necessarily, but they're Josh Allen. He had a pretty good year.
Yeah, 17 sacks. Yeah.
Let's ETN. What maybe Ridley okay, we can afford Christian Kirk. Trevor, what planet am I giving you $50 million? Taller Mac Jones.
So I mean, I like what you're saying, where it's incumbent upon the team. Some team out there needs to not do what the Eagles did, not do what the Cardinals did, not do what the Cowboys did, and just put their foot down. And is it going to be Miami with Tua? Is it going to be Jacksonville with Trevor? What are they going to do? One of these teams has to do it, or the league has to make some
why does it take a guy like Zach Wilson to just bottom out for it to be that obvious to not pay him?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
But the thing is I think, and the point that you're making is super sound. Jacksonville is going to pay Trevor. I think Miami is going to pay Tua. Just like last year.
See, I would put it this way. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to get paid. Will it be by the Jaguars?
I think so.
I think those
we saw last year.
I think one team could say no to these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think 32 teams could say no. I think someone would be willing to sign and trade.
The problem is last year we saw the Geno deal, the Danny Dimes deal, the Carr deal. Before that, you had Kyler's extension, Dak's extension, you just look at them and it's like nobody has to this point put their foot down. It's been since Drew Brees, maybe with the Chargers, where someone has gone, hey, I have an elite quarterback and he wants this. I'll just let him go. That hasn't involved, major injury. The Peyton Manning thing happened, of course, but he's coming off a severe neck injury. But it's
for crying out loud, the one guy who did was Belichick. He wanted Tom out.
Yeah. He was greatest of all time. Nah, that's fine. I don't want to pay him. And Tampa Bay was like, we'll take him. But it's
here's my thing too. I freaking love Brock Purdy. The Brock Purdy story, the Brock Purdy salary. I love how much his teammates love him. If you told me in 2 years we have to pay him $50 million a year,
if Kyle is still the coach and Lynch is still the GM and that infrastructure is similar, I would think they wouldn't do that. That's just me.
Here's my thing though. I think Kyle freaking loves Brock Purdy like he loves Kirk Cousins. And Kyle would give Kirk $100 million a year.
If you can run his system with play action better than everyone else in the league, he loves you to the end of the earth and back. I mean, that's Kyle in a nutshell.
It takes Desmond Ridder or Zach Wilson to we're not paying him, and it's either that or Arizona Cardinals clearly did not want to pay Kyler Murray. They put a homework clause in it.
Yeah,
and still gave him not a check. They gave him a check damn near $50 million a year.
Yeah. Somebody has to say no at some point here.
Deshaun Watson, utter failure, contract-wise.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson, utter failure, contract-wise. He's going to be cut before the deal even kicks in. Which one has worked? The only one that has worked has been Patrick Mahomes because it took 1 year until he became underpaid. And also, by the way, he's worth the money. He is the best quarterback in the league. The 10th and 12th and 15th guys are getting paid. I'm saying if you're not those 3 or 4, look at the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
Look who's left.
Yeah. And if Burrow didn't get hurt, he'd be there too. And it's there's a group of 5 or 6 guys that deserve that contract. Then there's a group of 5 or 6 guys after that deserve, 20% less, 30% less.
Exactly.
But they're asking for more than the elite guys, which is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it. You mentioned the NHL. So the highest paid player in the NHL is Nathan McKinnon at $12.6 million for this year. The cap, I believe, is 83.5.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, percentage-wise, and he's the highest paid guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
McDavid, who would be the Mahomes of the NHL, is making the equivalent of
12
what?
and a, he makes 12 and a half. He makes like $100K less. Nathan McKinnon was like, I'm going to beat him in my next contract. And I think Matthews, he makes like 13 and a half, but his deal doesn't kick in until next year. But for this season, McKinnon's 12.6. Percentage-wise, that is so much less than some of these quarterbacks who get $16 million of a $240 million cap.
Mm-hmm. Getting damn near a quarter of the cap, and you just cannot win like that.
And with the quarterback, if you get hurt, the team can't function.
Yeah.
Would the Colorado Avalanche be worse if McKinnon was hurt? Sure. But they could function.
Yeah.
They could score.
They could make the playoffs.
If Dak gets hurt, I don't know. Terrible. Because Cooper Rush was pretty decent.
But if Kirk Cousins gets hurt, there's your example right there. We went from 6-4 and having a real shot to make the playoffs to the Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall experience. So
it is. I don't get it. If I was a GM, I'd be like, we need a good quarterback on a rookie and then draft another one.
Yeah, if the end of say Trev, if I was the
remember last year, I was thinking about this after you texted me, but remember last year, people would have said we were crazy, but I was like, we would have been damn right if we had said the Eagles sign and trade Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm. Would have been the move of the year.
Look at what Carolina gave up for Bryce Young.
It's insane.
Jalen Hurts after last year would have been 3-4 ones, maybe a couple something.
Yeah. And that would have been the move. And I mean, you look around the league. If I was Jacksonville's GM, I would say, hey, Trevor, you're going to start next year. We're going to pick up your 5th-year option. You're going to play that year out, and then we'll figure it out from there. And I think until GMs start doing that,
then the agents see the thing is just playing that out. The agents lose their mind. They'll go to the Schefters, they'll go to the Rappaports, they'll go to the Jay Glazers. They'll probably raise hell, and it's it has to some team has to just be like, no.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, and the team has to do it not because we're taking the side of the corporation here over the worker. The team has to do it because you will lose in the long term.
I would love to pay you. If you gave us results like the Josh Allens, like the Mahomes, consistently, forget the playoffs, consistently in the divisional round. And if you're Mahomes, in the Super Bowl.
We have no problem paying a guy like Mahomes.
Pay you
$100
million. Yeah. I pay Mahomes $100 million.
Yeah.
Maybe not the cap, but I just some of these guys, what? And
once we get done with the Super Bowl, we'll have to really do a deep dive into this because there's going to be so many decisions like that in the offseason for so many teams who are in that limbo. First of all, they got to hire head coaches. They got to look at their draft position and whatever, but there's going to be some wild decisions. I really think there has to be. We're at a crossroads in the NFL when it comes to contracts like that, so I wanted to bring that up. That's it for the pod this week, folks. Next week is a huge one. Hopefully we're recapping a Niners victory and we're looking ahead to the championship round. It's been a great season. The picks are doing well. We appreciate everybody watching, liking, and subscribing. We've been doing well on TikTok lately, so thanks to everybody who's been watching those. We'll see everybody next week. Hopefully it's a Niners victory. We're recapping 3 more of these pods, and then the season is over. Thanks, everybody, for joining for another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast.